Hey everyone, this is Mrs. Alexander. Welcome to this flipped preview video for English 7A lessons 3.12 through 3.16. In these lessons, you will be reading the following items. In lesson 3.12, you will read the Bell Rock and the Inchcape Rock. You will compare how both of these texts talk about and discuss similar things, but one is in poetry form and the other one is written in prose, and your lessons will talk about that. In lesson 3.13, you will read Latin and Soul and Lakota Tribe Wants to Educate Through Music. Again, you'll be comparing the two texts. And then in the following lessons, you will read The Cremation of Sam McGee and The Highwayman. Both of those are short stories. Again, I want to point your attention to comparing two texts relating to the same topic. So in lesson 3.12, you will read The Inchcape Rock, and I apologize for that typo right there. And in lesson 3.13, you will read music poem about music, and you'll read one poem and one prose piece. It's really important in lesson 3.12 that you listen to the audio of the poem. Your lesson is going to ask you about how hearing the poem read out loud can have an effect on you as the reader. Your quiz questions may also cover how reading and listening to a poem out loud impacts the meaning. So be sure to pay attention to that. And as you read, be sure that you are making comparisons between the Inchcape Rock and the Bell Rock. Your lessons and your quiz questions will ask you, how are the two texts related? How do their formats affect your understanding of them? And I want to go over some key words with you because these are terms that you really need to understand in order to successfully and effectively go through the following lessons. Lessons 3.12, 3.13, 3.14, 3.15, and 3.16 for English 7A. These are terms that you also will be tested on quizzes at the end of the lessons and on the unit exam. So it's really important. I hope you have a notebook around or a pen or pencil. And I would even suggest pausing this recording to make sure you're actively understanding the definitions. So for some students, that's writing down the definitions on a note card or in a notebook. Whatever you need to do to actively have your brain listen and understand these definitions is good. It's one thing to listen to a definition, it's another thing to get your brain active in interacting with that definition. So maybe you're a drawer, or maybe you want to repeat the definition out loud. Those are great comprehension strategies for you to practice. All right, alliteration. Many of you may be familiar with this term. You may have heard it in other grades, but alliteration is the use of words with the same or similar beginning sounds, like Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Irony. Irony is the effect of language in which the intended meaning is the opposite of what is stated. Or, if you remember the short story The Necklace that we read in Unit 2, the irony was the main character had to pay back all of the money for the damaged, lost necklace, only to find out that the piece of jewelry wasn't as expensive as she had thought. It was actually a pretend piece of jewelry. And there's a lot of irony that goes behind that. And you could probably even think of your own example of something that's ironic. Rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme is the pattern of rhymes made by the final words or sounds in the lines of a poem. Sometimes when you're finding a rhyme scheme, you may use letters to name the different lines that rhyme with one another. So A, B would be a rhyme scheme where the first line rhymes with the second line, rhymes with the third line. A, those lines rhyme, and then B and B, those lines rhyme. Rhythm. Rhythm is a regular pattern of sound and beats within a poem. This is especially noted when you listen to a poem read aloud. It's really easy to identify and hear the rhythm of a poem when reading it out loud. Stanza. Stanza is a subdivision or group of lines in a poem, like a paragraph in prose writing. So, paragraphs are in prose writing, like short stories or essays, and stanzas are in poems. Free verse. Free verse is a type of poetry that does not use rhyme or meter. Viewpoint. Viewpoint is the standpoint, perspective, or attitude of a narrator or character in a literary text. Metaphor. Metaphor is a figure of speech that suggests or states a comparison between two unlike things without using such words as like or as. For example, the cat's eyes were emeralds shining in the night. Notice how that sentence is comparing the cat's eyes to emeralds shining in the night without using the words like or as. Meter. Meter is the arrangement of words in poetry based on rhythm, accents, and the number of syllables in a line. Simile. Simile is a figure of speech that compares two things, usually using the words like or as. For example, like a thief in the night, or quiet as a mouse. Personification. Personification is giving human qualities to a thing or abstraction. For example, the kettle sang on the hearth, or after the victory, freedom held its head high in the nation. Notice how the kettle doesn't actually have human qualities, but in this sentence, the kettle sang, you're giving human qualities to an inanimate object, an object that's not real, or that's not alive. Figurative language. Language that uses figures of speech, such as metaphor, simile, and personification. All of those are examples of figurative language. For poetic effect rather than for precise factual meaning. So, figurative language is seen a lot in short stories, in poems. You're not necessarily going to find a lot of figurative language found in essays. Mood. Mood is the emotions or feelings that are conveyed in a literary work. And onomatopoeia, the use of words that imitate sounds such as buzz, clang, boom, pow, wow, zap. I also wanted to note that some students have trouble finding the News-ELA article that they're supposed to read in Lesson 3.13. It is found by clicking on that link, Read It on News-ELA. So you'll read two texts in Lesson 3.13. The first one is found in your ebook or your English textbook, and the second one is found on News-ELA. Lastly, as you're reading, remember some of those reading comprehension strategies that you and your classmates discussed in one of the discussions that we've previously completed. It's really important as we read to make sure we're active readers. It's so easy to get distracted if we have our phones nearby or the TV on, or if we're trying to multitask. In order to improve reading comprehension, I really recommend finding a quiet place to read these texts that are in these lessons and being active as you read. Ask yourself questions, make notes, highlight things, draw a picture, try to summarize what you just read. All of those are great ideas for helping you better comprehend and understand what you're reading. I hope you enjoy the next few lessons, and I will look forward to seeing you in our flipped follow-up session where we'll go over some of the lesson topics, and we'll even have a chance to review some quiz questions that you may or may not see on some of your lessons or end of unit exams. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching this video, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye. Sincerely, Mrs. A.